Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are talking about the new archetype BYSSTED. It's a really cool new archetype. It seems like it's got legit meta potential, but it's not a full-on deck on its own. I don't think anybody would really argue that. If you go through the deck, it definitely feels like more like an engine that you want to splash with something else, and that's what we're talking about today. Some of the options that I think have the best synergy and potential to be either meta or rogue when they're combined with BYSSTED, or when BYSSTED is combined with them. Keep in mind, BYSSTED is coming out in Darkwing Blast, so we're a couple months away. We're about to get Power of the Elements in about a month, and then we'll probably get this set about 3 months after, assuming there's no product delays. October 21st is the TCG date as of right now, and we're going to get the final reveals for this set in the next couple days. But as for this video, let's real quick go through the BYSSTED stuff. If you don't know, the three main monsters are kind of like straight up DD Crows. They're a little bit more conditional. They can only banish lights or darks. They can banish from either player's graveyard. But also, if your opponent controls a monster, it is a quick effect, and they summon themselves and then have some other effect. So Magnemite being able to search any dragon on end phase is pretty insane. Any dragon in the entire game. We know how powerful dragons are. That'll absolutely come up in the synergy talks. Saranir, when this card is sent to the graveyard, period. Whoa, hold on now. Sorry about that. When this card is sent to the graveyard, period, it lets you foolish any other BYSSTED monster or a branded spell or trap. So that actually can have some synergy with some of the other like branded deck and other stuff. It's pretty cool. Then you have Druid Worm. This one, when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, just the field. So I think that's good though, because this could have been too generic. So from field to graveyard, you can target one opponent's special summoned monster and send it to the graveyard. So a targeted send, which is pretty good removal as well. Pretty good. I mean, they're all pretty good. They're also all beefy 2,500 boys. You also have this guy, Bellion, who I think is pretty powerful in and of himself. He can send himself from the hand to the graveyard to add a BYSSTED monster. Then he's potentially like setting up himself as banished fodder, but also he can tribute a level 6 or higher dark dragon to summon himself. And once he's on the field, he can once per turn just set a branded continuous spell or trap, which includes these two rebranded. If any light or dark monster is banished, target one of those monsters, place it on the bottom deck, and draw cards. Just gets you draws by taking advantage of the BYSSTEDs. And once per turn, if your opponent normal summons or special summons, you can target a BYSSTED in your grave and special summon it. So really good card. And just as a continuous every turn, this is getting you bodies, this is getting you draws. Really solid. And the last one is Beast. This is if you control a BYSSTED monster, you contribute a dragon to pop a card. That's pretty good, all things considered, especially for the ones that float. Like being able to like tribute Druid Worm to pop a card, and then Druid Worm sends a special summon monster. Pretty good combination there. And then you could target a branded spell, continuous spell or trap on end phase in grave and place it face up on your field. So it lets you get stuff like rebranded back onto the field if it's in grave. So very cool. Those are the most important ones. There's one other monster, but I think it's poop, so don't worry about that as far as splashability. Let's get into this thing. Let's start talking about what we can combine them with. I think I've got 8 options here. The first one here is Chaos. I know I have Levian here. This could also be considered Dragon Link, but we'll talk about that separately. As far as Chaos goes, like we always get Chaos support. Every year, it feels like. Every couple months, we get a handful of just like good Chaos cards. I think eventually it'll manifest into a really strong strategy. Once again, I would say the last time it was like a legitimately good strategy, if you're not including just straight up Dragon Link, is probably like Thunder Dragon Chaos, just because Thunder Dragon's kind of facilitated just the Chaos mentality like so well. But yeah, like these cards are so crazy. They're new. They're better extenders than I think most of the Chaos cards are, because they can let your opponent set up the grave. They help you play second. Really solid. Next up here we have Ogdu Attic. This is another archetype that is legit. All lights and darks. They don't hard lock you into reptiles, I think, ever. No. Unless you use the Reptilian Link. But other than the Reptilian Link, actually, I think the Reptilian Link only locks you from extra decks. I think you're fine anyway. They only have like soft locks when like certain monsters are on the field, but once you link them off, exceed them off, whatever, you will be cleared up and you can summon your BYSSTED monsters. I think that's pretty good. I think Ogdu Attic definitely has always been looking for an additional engine to splash in, and maybe this could be it. Who knows? Next up, we have Dragon Link. This is probably by far the most meta-relevant one, just because the synergy is so great, basically with Magnemite more than anything. I mean, Magnemite kind of just saying like, hey, every time you summon him on end phase, you just add Levioneer to hand. And now you just have Levioneer chilling. For follow-up, which we know Levioneer is like an insane follow-up card, of course. So really, really strong. Of course, this deck is also all light and dark for the most part. It's good. Yeah, I think that's probably the best synergy that they have for sure. This could be a legit tier 1 deck when this comes out. So very cool. Next up is Thunder Dragon. Now this one is a little bit conditional. I think if Colossus goes to 1, this could be a legit tier 1 deck again. Without Colossus, it's a little bit harder to say. I don't see it being tier 1 without Colossus, but maybe a tier 2 rogue contender kind of situation. Just because the synergy is awesome. If any of the Thunder Dragons are banished, generally that's when they get their better effects, their stronger effects, which is really, really good. But like, Thunder Dragon Titan is good, but like it should be your secondary option as a boss monster, not the primary one, to be honest. But, you know, the Bisteds do cover up a lot of that weakness in only having that option by like helping you apply pressure in other ways. Rank 6s are absolutely on the board as you look here. Dragon Roar himself is a 6, so there are some pretty, I'm sure, easy rank 6 lines which are obtainable. Like, we'll just have to see. Honestly, this one's a little up in the air. I'd have to see people like actually play with these before making a full-on judgment call. Next up is Mr. Roon. This is a weird one. So Mr. Roon really doesn't play monsters in the main deck, but all of their cards essentially work as like, I want to say E-Telly, but it's not even E-Telly. It just summons one of their fusions straight out of the extra deck, one of which, in fact, the main one is Hugin, who is a light. So you summon her, she gets you the Mr. Roon field spell, and then once you clear her off the field, there's your light. And that's the synergy you want in this deck, is like if you're playing against a matchup that doesn't set up lights and darks for the BYSSTEDs, then you buy it like from your opponent. You want to be playing an engine that you can set them up yourself pretty easily as well. And I think this is one of them. I mean, you just always go through Hugin usually to start the play. And there you go. Clear her off the field, get her in grave, and you'll have another Link body on field potentially to take advantage of. Actually, you might not, because you might have to go through Gravity Controller. But I do think there's potential there. I do think this is a potential splash ability. But also, this deck really only seems to only put one light in grave easily. Outside of that, I don't know exactly how easy it'll be, which means if you have multiple BYSSTEDs, it could get a little bit dicey. But I do still think there's the synergy there. Just how easy this deck gets at least one light in grave could be something. Next up, Bellion, the Searing Dragon. Another cool one for sure. I mean, this kind of goes just hand in hand. We're talking about more so like the branded engine, potentially Despia. They put a lot of those cards in grave. In fact, if you were able to put something like the Tragedy in grave, you know, on a later turn, you could banish it to trigger it again to get you another search. Pretty cool. And also just the fact that you're able to send any light or dark, get a potential resource off of that, and then it's banish fodder for the BYSSTEDs. I definitely think there's solid synergy there, all in all. And of course, lure-wise, they go together because this is Bellion fusion form, and now we have a Bellion main deck form. Second to last one, or I think I have one more I want to add on here that I didn't throw out there. Crusadia Magius. Crusadias in general have always been looking for other engines to splash in as good extension pieces that can also apply pressure. We've seen the Dragon engine splashed in separate from this, like 3 of the spell that summons Rocket Tracer and go from there, but you have to play bricks. This engine really doesn't play a lot of bricks. They kind of just work. Which is pretty interesting. And Magius, their Link 1, like I mentioned before, super easy to get in rotation, is a light. So this is like always the first card you make once you normal summon. So making it very easy to make the BYSSTEDs live is really, really nice. Not only that, but the deck likes to go second. They are bunguses, and when you go second with this deck, you do just want to OTK with big bodies. They help with that. I do think there could be a world where Crusadia Bisted could be a legit rogue deck to keep an eye on, for sure. And second last, I got to throw Lair of Darkness out there. I saw Lithium's video, and it actually kind of impressed me. I thought they looked better than I thought they would. But yeah, I mean, Lair has always been looking for an additional engine that would work with it, just because it doesn't do enough on its own. And these are big monsters that are dark, so they work with being able to be tributed off of Lilith or Rima or Diabolos. Magnamut searches Diabolos now, so you have more access to him. I had cut him from previous lists, but now he's way more searchable, so I probably would play him. And it's an interesting control element to it. And also, like, the virus cards, because these are big, dark monsters, the virus cards come into play again, in which I hadn't been playing for years, because I just don't think Lair was in a place where it would consistently set up what you wanted for the requirements. So, very, very cool. Very interested in messing around with that when it comes. And then the final thing here, I don't have a picture for it, is Invoked. I think potentially could be pretty spicy, but it'll depend. It'll definitely depend. But Invoked is pretty good at getting darks and lights in grave. I mean, listen, the one question is, if you go Alistair, search Invocation, link him off. You don't want to use a Bisted to banish Alistair, because then you can't Invocation him, right? Use him as material, but there are ways to make it happen. I'd be curious, maybe if there's like, I wonder if there's a world where you could play like Invoked, Mech Knight, Bisted. Also, Bisted doesn't use the extra deck, so maybe even like Invoked Dogmatica Bisted. They're mostly light and dark all throughout those archetypes. And then you add like the Bisteds in there as another like backbone engine to be a little more offensive. As well, and they kind of just function as extra hand traps. It depends on the format. I think one of the problems is going to be that Splight's going to be so good during Power of the Elements format. We'll have to see how the ban list shakes out and how good Splight still is when this set comes out. Because if they are still so good, Bisted seems a lot weaker. But if Tier Elements has started to take over, and Tier Elements is kind of everywhere, then I do think there is a world where, I mean, if Tier Elements is Tier 0, then like we're going to see Bisted all over the place, because they are so good versus that deck. I've already talked about how DD Crow is awesome versus Tier Elements. These just all function as DD Crows that also get you a 2500 body and then offer you some other resource, whether it's a Search of a Dragon on end phase, whether it's another removal once you clear him off the field or whatever. So really, really good. I'm very excited to mess with these. I'm not usually a huge dragon guy, but I really like the way they designed these cards. I just like how fluid they feel, that your opponent can set them up, but they're not even hard for you to set up yourself. They have really high ceilings. It just feels like one of these monsters applies a lot of pressure by themselves. And I'm excited to mess with them when they finally come out. So there you go. There's my list of the best things that you can probably combine Bisteds with when they come out. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else that's worth considering as far as combining with the Bisteds? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comment section down below what's going on in your brains there. But I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching as always, guys. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.